Hi, Dexter. Welcome to Epka's group and my podcast, Epka's Talk at 5 o'clock. And I'm happy to have you here. Little quick intro about how we met. We met by an accident. I was carried away by your story, and it really inspired me. And I've mentioned that you're quite a celebrity on a podcast already. And I don't want to dive deeper into your business world. And you can feel free to share your inspirations and what your company is doing. But I would really want to dive behind the scene and dive into your true story, how it all started. Because when you told me this, I found it quite inspirational. And I think a lot of audience can really learn a lot from you. So without any further delays, I'll turn this to you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much. And it's a pleasure to be here with you today. My name is Dexter Hardy. I'm the president and CTO at Ntegral Inc. We're headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. And simply put, we help companies move to the cloud. One of the things that you mentioned was about our story and our, behind the scenes. The challenge, growing a business, keeping a business, moving in that up into the right category is something that we're always challenged with. So definitely glad to be here and want to share that with your listeners.
Thanks. So let's take you back in time. And you've been doing this quite some time. I don't want to age you, but let's take
The gray hair helps out.
let's take about 20 something years back and where you were, how the whole entire entrepreneurship journey started for you.
Yeah, so start of the company was really, it's a pivotal time in my career. I was working with a major consulting organization as a technical architect. And at that time, it was really just focused on, getting out, doing what I was doing with them just independently. So I would say it was more so the start of the company was around independence and the independent contractor track. But shortly after that, we started building a team, focusing on customer value, adding customer value, and things of that nature. And so for the better part of, and that was the beginning of our saga, if you will.
Saga. I love the word saga. So I know a lot of people right now, it's a kind of very difficult job market, and a lot of companies are firing people or, again, cutting costs right and left. And it's challenging for the job seekers to really find their perfect spot. And most of them, and at least a lot of people that I talk to, really looking into this consultancy journey. And it sounds intriguing and intimidating at the same time. It's like, oh my God, how can I leave this job with the security of the insurance and stability and 2 weeks of vacation a year, wow, and get into this kind of unknown waters? How did it feel to you back then? What was this kind of defining moment that really made your shift? Or you really had someone on your side kind of encourage you and be your stepping stone, or like that you can lean on to get into this leap?
Yeah. So for me, it was more so one of my advisors or mentors was telling me, hey, if you stay within the consulting world, there's only two paths. One is, management, where you're going to be, on a partner track, or if you stay tech, you're pretty much at the high end of your tech. You just, go over, have some people reporting to you, but, and they were like, either this is at that time, it was like, the consultancy world was wide open and there was just a lot of opportunity. So, I was at a point in my life where I was like, you know what, I'll take the chance. And I took the leap of faith to kind of do it. But, looking back on it, what I would say to anyone that's looking at that journey, think about which area or aspect of that you really want to do. Do you want to be a consultant or an independent consultant where it's just you and you work hours based on the gigs that you get? Or are you, in fact, trying to be that entrepreneur and create a company? Those are two completely different paths. Obviously, I evolved our story over time and became, focused on the growing an organization and a company. But for anyone that's listening, you want to know that there's two different paths, distinctly different.
So from the beginning, did you really knew from the early beginning that you want to actually start something big, or you just like play by the ears, see how it goes?
So I actually knew from the beginning that I wanted to do something big, and I think that's part of that entrepreneur in me that's like, you have those big, grand ideas. I was like, yeah, you'll see our name, our logo in the airport, and you're gonna, see us on billboards and all this great stuff. And this was, I always tell people that, people that start businesses are, you know, part magician, part, visionary, part daredevil, because you have to be able to think big. You have to be able to think outside the box, and you have to have confidence. Really, you can't just, need validation all the time around, the decision that you're making. You have to be able to, trust in yourself and make those decisions.
Do you remember your very first, like a real hire? Or what was the moment when you felt like, oh my God, this is real? Like, this is really happening. Not like I'm envisioning this big dream and big boards, but it's actually happening.
So I think the biggest part for me was we've had several different employees, and I don't know if the employee thing was the aha moment for me, but after we made the pivot, and this is the new version or the new chapter in our business.
Mhm.
We focused on, this was after COVID, we focused on how do you empower or enable consultants to do what they do better. So, and it's around the value proposition. And what really was the aha moment for me there was, or what made me realize that we were on something big was we went from being a small regional consultancy, which we had been for, better part of 2 decades, to literally within 6 months, we had customers in over 40 countries. And so, the light bulb, went off completely like, oh my God, is this happening? This is really happening. So to your point, that was the shot heard around the world, or the thing that was the catalyst for, a tremendous excitement. The other pieces were just, I'm a logical thinker, so you kind of figure out the pieces. But now it's like, oh my goodness, where else can we expand?
Incredible. And I remember you've mentioned that pivoting moment was actually the hardest period of your business during the COVID times. Can you tell a little bit more what you were struggling with and how did you figure it out to scale the company within that turned out to be a scaling within 6 months?
Yeah. So, it all boiled down to I was, as a consultant, I'm working with an organization that actually contracted COVID. I was the main person leading one of the calls that we had with a major energy organization in the Southeast. And so there was no alternative. I had to be on the call. I'm sitting, I didn't turn my camera on. I have a blanket over my head. And I'm just sitting there shivering under the call. And I'm like, excuse me, saying excuse me every time I coughed or whatever in the call. And I'm like, I'm solving for the wrong problem. Like, I'm recreating the same thing over and over again with regard to there's only 24 hours in a day. To your point about having, security around 2 weeks vacation, all that stuff. I think there was no sense of that because you're always on, you're always looking at, that you have to think 2 steps ahead and think about that next thing. So that was really the time that made me kind of, realize, wait, I'm doing something wrong here. We have to think bigger than this. We have to think beyond, just that next, contract or that next client. How do you do this at scale, as an organization? And then, succession planning. How do you inspire others to come into your organization when you're a small business?
Interesting. When you talk about your shift from being a two to become a consultant and then become an entrepreneur that actually scale the business, it reminds me of the old book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki and these old quadrants that he was talking about. And I
Hmm.
know a lot of people got hung up on this for better or for worse. Yes, the definitely clear example of a living example of the dynamic and trajectory of evolvement of the career, right? From a W-2 employee to a kind of a self-employed consultant into the quadrants of business side of it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you really realize that you trade your effort for money, even as a W-2 or the independent consultant, but when you realize that your true value comes from serving others at scale, that's
Yep,
when it seems like the light bulb went on and you just took it in a completely new trajectory. So
absolutely.
I can only imagine how it must have felt when within a short period of time you kind of doubled and boomed across globally. How did you handle the globalization in a post-COVID environment, growing your business across multiple countries?
So COVID kind of helped with that. Everybody was remote, so
Available. I
yeah,
needed a
and everybody's
conversation.
available.
I
So
wanted to talk.
that was it was like easy button click, and like that was actually not the hard part. I think if it had been a different time or different era, I always call it the COVID era, which we're kind of still in, but it's like, things everyone had, you know, their mindset had shifted from like going to the office and, people were setting up offices at home because we didn't know how long it was going to be. So, and people were open to taking challenges because again, the other thing that it did was it made us focus on what really is important to us, and that's our time, that's our family, that's our community, right? And so, people were, do I really want to go out there and be in the rat race with regard to, chasing after, that next big thing from a 9 to 5, or, do I really want to be involved with an organization that has that's impacting my community, that cares about the community, that is really looking to add value, not just, revenue thing for like let's make that next number, but really, how do we build a community? How do we, support that community and then, make their lives easier?
Interesting. And as you grew your business, I'm curious. I mean, you're still were very small at the very beginning, and you had to staff people, recruit, engage, compete with the big brands, big logos. How did you do that? And what was the selling pitch that you would pitch into your potential candidates you want to bring on board? How did you attract talents and candidates that help you to grow the business?
Well, so my lessons learned in all of this is people buy into you as a person. If you're a small business or an entrepreneur, the first thing that people lean into is do they like you? Like literally, do you have a believable story? I mean, because the other things they're table stakes. Like, are you gonna pay? Making payroll, all that stuff. Yeah, that's great, but are you do you align with their goals, right? And so a lot of the people that we have in our organization, they understand the vision of what I'm building with the organization, and it really is exciting, right? So early on, if there was no, it was just an idea, like we can do this. This is the pivot, like get the downloads, but at this point now we have a track record of saying, yeah, we were in 44 countries in the first year. Now in the second year we're in over 100 countries. Third year we're over, you know, 150 countries. So now, it's an easier thing to kind of get customer or employees on board because we have a track record of showing proof. It's not just, I'm selling vaporware and like, hell yeah, come on over. It's just great over here. The grass is greener and there's no grass, right?
I've
Right.
seen those too. So I hear in your story that you do value and what inspired you, the value, the freedom and being flexible, being able to spend the quality time with your family, give back to your community and don't spend enormous number of hours grinding. But now you also have the W-2 employees. You also have some consultants that do the grind for you. How do you balance this within your organization to kind of preserve the values that actually got you where you're at today?
Yeah. So that's an interesting scenario. So everyone isn't meant to be an independent or um, entrepreneur. I always tell people the life of an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. Like again, that whole, what am I going to eat next week? How am I going to pay for bills? Like you have a whole different thought pattern than the average person, which I've come to find out. I just thought everybody thought that way, but everybody doesn't. And so, everyone is not meant to be or have the mindset of an entrepreneur. Second piece is, again, just leaning into the things that are important to them, making sure that you align with their values. So like, we do every Friday is a remote day. So it doesn't even matter. Like, you because of COVID, like we have office days, we have things that we're doing, you're doing your meetings, but it's really, trying to embrace some of that, flexibility, time schedule scenario that really gets people to lean into the organization. And as far as keeping them involved with it is like, again, it's kind of exciting. You see the growth. We're partnering with, some major organizations like Microsoft that really helps, our employees like, oh, wow, this is awesome. You guys, like I said, it literally, you take this idea and now it becomes this living, breathing thing that, is growing and expanding. And, it's really exciting.
That's awesome. I love that you brought this actually, and thank you so much for bringing this up, that not everyone has the mindset of the entrepreneur or really understand what it really takes to take create something out of pretty much nothing. Because I feel like people right now are oversold on the idea like, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go follow my dream. And I've had these conversations before with people like, hey, shifting in this, like, I'm going to be on my own. I'm defending my freedom and I want to be solopreneur, entrepreneur, and whatever. That's all great. But
Yeah.
I wanted to emphasize that, first of all, there is some greatness in being a two-person if you work for the right company. There is
Correct.
some greatness and satisfaction can be as you are a solopreneur if that's what you want. And there is also some greatness to become an entrepreneur, but it comes with pros and cons. And, and this is like an endless cycle because you cannot be a W-2 person without an entrepreneur created a company for you to work there one day,
Absolutely.
right? You cannot be an entrepreneur and run the business if you don't have a W-2 employees. That's
Yep.
something completely different. So there's inner dependencies and everyone has a role. I think the key aspect is that to find the way to really lead with the purpose and relate to people and people to relate to the leadership to have this connection and dynamic so the people stay for longer and follow the path of the journey. And if someone feels like the entrepreneurship journey is for them, there's a living example that it's possible.
I'm all in for it. If you're an entrepreneur, there's, there's a, like I said, it takes a special mindset. You really, you really need to know that that's what you want to do. Because again, there's so many facets of, starting a business that people who are either a solopreneur or, just an independent consultant don't really think about. You got to think about HR. You got to think about labor laws. You got to think about, do you do 401k? Do you have like, that has no, I mean, technically it has nothing to do with, the idea that you had to kind of create, but it's part of the business, right? You have to, put on those hats and say, well, logistics, where's our office going to be? How many offices do we have? Computers for everyone. What systems do we use? So again, you have to start, you evolve from, you need, that tinkerer, entrepreneur, and then CEO hat. You need each one of those skill sets as you're building a company, and you just have to know when to turn up the lever on each phase of it to make sure that things grow and stay consistent.
I'm curious, were there anything back in the day that kept you awake at night and made you so worried over your head that now when you look back, it seems to be very silly and you have something else that keeps you awake at night?
So I think there's always something to kind of keep you awake at night. I do a good job of trying to stay active and working out. So when I go to sleep, I don't remember anything.
You don't dream?
I just pass out. I'm like, oh, it's morning. Okay. But
A great way to handle stress. You just like exhaust yourself at the gym right before at the end of the day. So you just like done.
Yeah, I'm done. There's no, you're going to sleep. Your body's like, I'm going to already to sleep. But all jokes aside, I think the things that used to bother me or that they used to keep me up was making sure that the customer was, happy with the work. And again, that still is something that I'm always mindful of. But with our new model, we can bake a lot of the, security updates and um, a lot of the software assurances into the product. So it's not like I have to physically sit there and monitor whether or not this is doing what it's supposed to do and if the customer's happy with it. Because it's a product, we can actually, customers give us feedback through one of two ways, right? They either are repeat customers or they give us the actual feedback. And, you know, a repeat customer, even if they never give you any ratings or reviews on Google,
Yeah.
and they're telling you we like this. So, you know, enjoy the ride. Yeah.
Awesome. So you've been in this journey for 20 plus years, right? Give or take. Not aging you
22,
again.
22 years. Yeah. Yeah.
And how do you reward yourself for all the hard work you've done? I know it takes probably a lot part of your day just to run the operation and constantly think about future, but you got to take a break. I know you work out. You already told that. What
Yeah.
else do you like doing? How do you really treat yourself for all the hard work that you put together?
So I think there's a great part of the work-life balance that you have to think about. Like I said, I love spending time with family. That's always relaxing for me. I mean, I love my family, so they're, good people. And so, it takes your mind away from whatever that challenge was at work. The other thing is I love to travel. So, you know, even though I do travel with work, I always try to find, like, even if I'm going for a work event, I want to make sure that I go to the park, or like last one, I was in California, went to Malibu, and I was like, oh, okay, go out to the ocean. Like, it's really, that stuff is there, but, there's a lot of sage advice around, you know, taking the time to smell the roses. So, you're in that area, you enjoy something from that area. So it doesn't even have to be something extravagant, but I would just say, yeah, that's my.
Interesting. And so your kids grow up watching you building your empire.
Mhm.
How do you think they see it? If they would ask you for an advice, Dad, should we just choose the path of the two, or should we be a successor, or should we start something ourselves? What would you tell your kids the path to take? Or have you had this type of conversations with them?
I'm always having this conversation with my kids. Yeah, I'm telling, they'll come up with, oh, I like this new tennis shoe. And I'm like, well, do you think you could design a tennis shoe? Like, what would you name your tennis shoe? And can you would your friends wear it? Like, I'm always taking their immediate community or the things that are important to them and then saying, well, there's a business application for it, right? One loves basketball. So it's like, there's so many aspects around basketball that you can, create. Um, and I always say revenue streams. It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have a regular job. You could have, passive income from a myriad of things. And so, I look at it from that perspective. But, when we drive around Atlanta, there's several multi-story buildings, skyscrapers around, and it's like, I could work for that company. I was like, well, why not own that building? And they pay you to be there, right? It's like,
Bigger.
think much bigger than, and I challenge them with that. So, but I also, I'm a realist that, you know, from you have to, in order to have those ideas and understand what concepts or things that may help people, you need to have some experience, right? And so being in a regular job will give you that experience needed to kind of understand, oh, here's a gap that, could possibly fill, and I can fill it, right? If you want to be that entrepreneur.
So you're probing your kids to see if you indeed pass the entrepreneurship gene into them or not.
Kinda. I was like, it's a Johnny Appleseed thing. It's like, I don't know if you saw the movie Inception. I'm like planting the seed
I
and then
didn't see it.
just say, think about this, think about that. So we'll see.
Interesting. I mean, it would be interesting to watch your kids grow and see how they evolve their journeys themselves and what kind of lessons they learn as they go. So now you're spread across multiple countries
Mhm.
and you will continuously grow your operations globally. Have you ever imagined in your wildest dreams back in the day that you'll ever be sitting here in the position that you're in, having and running and doing what you're doing today?
So no, like I said, I thought about like, oh, I want to have this company that, our logos in the airport. When you walk by, you kind of see it, but that's, I'm sure a lot of people have that. Like you walk through the airport, you see a logo, you're like, oh, I could do that. Right. But, to actually, have that within striking distance to something that you could actually achieve, sometimes I just touch myself because it is surreal. Like you have this idea and now it's taking off and you're getting, like I said, it's surreal. It's absolutely surreal.
So where next do you want to see your logo to be placed on? Do you have a location, airport, site?
Maybe a sporting arena, I could do that. Like, so to take a page out of my son's book, he's like basketball. So maybe one of the sports arenas, have our logo displayed in one of the major sporting
Multiple, probably.
or multiple. Yeah,
Multiple.
I think all of
All right. Think bigger, right?
exactly. So you're always challenged to think bigger. Right?
That's interesting. So what is the next biggest milestone that seems to be kind of achievable, but not quite within the reach for you?
So, hmm, the next big thing that we're really focused on, or I'm focused on, really is I'll say it's in three pillars. It's community, product, and brand. So the biggest things there is like I want to build a community that is, that has like a vision or goals around like, the IT world is really, I'll call it, people have said I have my pocket protector on half the time. So, it's like this little nerdy little thing. Like you got your computer you did with you, and I'm like, yeah, but I can be cool too, right? So they're trying to bring some coolness to computers and DevOps as opposed to being that. And so building that community, helping them with that work-life balance, providing resources to kind of help if you're on the entrepreneur journey or if you need training to kind of do that. So we're supporting some different areas there. Around our products, it's always refining our message, right? So I always tell people don't let perfect be the enemy of good. When you start out, your message may be very vague and you have all these buzzwords, digital transformation and blah blah
Yeah.
blah, AI, AIO, right? Like it's like you're creating these songs around all this stuff, but at the end of the day, customers want someone who understands them, right? You're able to understand what pain points they have, and through your organization or product or whatever it is you're doing, you're able to make their day or life easier, right? So that they can have work-life balance and enjoy time at home and family and all that stuff.
And you're the living proof of that. Someone once said that if you can achieve anything you want in life if you just help enough people to achieve what they want in life.
It's all, yeah. Yeah, so if I look at it that way, when you look at it that way and you say it that way, it's all about network, right? So no one is a stranger when you're building a business. You never know what the connecting piece is for that other person, and it's not about business. It's just about getting to know good people, connecting people, and that in turn helps you as you grow your business.
And hopefully the network that you meet every day will get you to your, big stadium logo advertisements one day.
Maybe, and I'll take a soccer one too. They're pretty big.
Good.
Manchester United. Let's get them. Let's go.
And as closing remarks, Dexter, what would you tell to our younger self when you were just starting out? Is there any wisdom that you want to share with your younger self or your kids that I think that would be valuable assets for them to know or you to know that will spiral your trajectory maybe faster than
Yeah.
it has been?
Yeah. So it's a piggyback on what we were just talking about. Like I tell them always network, like always be that person that's speaking up, talking to people, understanding what's happening. Because, table stakes doing the work, that's table stakes. It's like you're in, you have to pass the test. Like there's no, there are no other options on that. But it's all that soft stuff around it. Like, do I know your birthday? Do we, what are you doing after work? Can we hang out? Like all of that other stuff about their kid, knowing about their kids, knowing about birthdays, knowing about what your favorite things are, that builds a relationship. And so building a business is about building relationships. If you know, hone that, the earlier you hone that skill, it will propel you faster because, people do business with people they like. The more people you know, obviously you have way more opportunities. So
True. So never lose the sight of the person behind the transaction.
absolutely. We create stuff for people. So just realize that the other side is a person and they're not just another number, but they have their own, things that they love, things that they, want to improve on, or they have their own destiny. So if we can help them, then that makes it easy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dexter. It was my pleasure. I really enjoyed the conversation, and I hope our audience can learn a lot from our just brief 30 minutes together. And I hope not everybody's going to jump into their entrepreneurship right away and start quitting their job. We need the W-2 people.
We need, yeah, we just need it. But yeah, it's been wonderful. I enjoyed this, and to anyone listening, just know that there's no wrong answer. Um, you know, you maybe stages and gates, right? You start as a B2, then you try out it, and then you go to the other one.
Or you can decide that entrepreneurship is not for you, and it's okay. Okay to go back to the solopreneurship. It's okay to go back to the W-2 as long as you find something that really fulfills you in life, right? And gives
Absolutely.
you joy in a day-to-day life.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's it.
Thank you.